You're working so hard, you got to know where your money goes. And then you can control it because it will always keep going where you send it. So if you're constantly putting up credit card debt and paying it down and putting up debt, then you will end up with that as your life. So it is important to know where your money is going and spending time talking to each other about what your goals are.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the At Depth podcast. Again and again, just to remind you all, this podcast is about one simple thing. It's about uncovering the through lines that connect what we value to how we lead, build, and invest things like our money, our time, our energy, our wisdom. I get to talk with some wonderful people. I get to talk with founders, leaders, entrepreneurs, fund managers, family office heads, coaches. Recently, I've been having wonderful interviews with some professional coaches as well. And everyone's joined by this simple idea that you can take what you value and you can infuse it into the way that you operate and think and work. And today I've got a wonderful guest. Jenn Lane and I have been working together, maybe 4 or 5 years at this point. We got connected during COVID. She is a former pilot and flight training executive, that's always a special connecting point for me. But she's got an incredibly diverse perspective, which makes her a lot of fun to talk to. She's written 3 books. She's been on the news, and she's a very incredible, articulate voice about the whole world of financial planning. And she's got a wonderful company called Compass Planning that does fee-only advisory services. And she was kind of the pioneer of this whole thing. So Jenn, welcome.
Great to be here. Thanks, Ben.
I want to just kick it off right here. You were someone who flew airplanes, and then now you're someone who helps people navigate the course of their life from a financial standpoint. And I think you've got to be sort of bright and empathetic and calm in both jobs. But how did you move from that to where you are today?
Okay, well, you're right. It makes more sense when you know the backstory. Mostly it was getting through flight training and enjoying working and flying and enjoying being a pilot. And after training and after building your hours, then deciding what's next. And the idea of now going and flying for an airline and being off and away from home for long periods of time wasn't really there. So I looked at a lot of independent, it's like, newly married. Okay, let's get a job where both of us are on different trips for 2 weeks at a time. Not great. So really both my husband and I were looking at what do we want to do next? What was great about flying? What wasn't great about flying? And what's the next part of your life supposed to look like? Isn't that what you're supposed to be doing when you're 26 years old?
Right.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
It really kind of occurred to me just through my own family and seeing people that I wasn't sure what it was, but it seemed like people just couldn't get financial advice directly from somebody who was just going to tell them the straight scoop. They could find insurance agents. You need insurance. That's great. You can find investing people. Back then it was stockbrokers. That was great. But how do you put it together? And people were saying just how much should I be saving? Where do I start? So I thought the financial part was intriguing, or financial services was intriguing, and got a job selling insurance. Because back then it was you sell insurance or you sell investments, pick one. That taught me about the industry. So it was, I don't want to be away from home for weeks on end. I want to do something that I have control over. That's the pilot thing, sit in front of the airplane, control where it goes. So I want my life to be under my own control. So maybe getting into financial services would be a thing. You know, you're 20. What do you just go for it, right? Yes, I had a mortgage and 2 car payments and all that. But yeah, let's do 100% commission sales. All right, fabulous. And my husband said, oh, great idea. It's like, all right. In doing that, I failed a bunch of interviews because the financial services industry, rightly so, gives you all kinds of personality tests.
Yep.
While you're interviewing. And they discovered that I wasn't going to really kind of follow along with the path and go along the way that they wanted to do things. And so I didn't get hired by anybody except for one agency in Scottsdale, Arizona, John Hancock. And being a Boston girl, I thought, great, I know John Hancock. I'll go work for them. And the idea was they were just a small agency. So they probably thought I did horribly on the scores, but what the hell, right? You know, so we'll just bring her in. Maybe she'll have some friends that she can sell insurance to. So I learned the importance of life insurance. I learned everything there was possible to know about annuities. And I learned that insurance agents don't have the time to do financial planning with you. They need to find someone who needs life insurance and sell them life insurance. And I learned about the industry. And it taught me that there was something called a CFP, a certified financial planner. And just this was 35 years ago or so. And so there were just not a lot of people doing just fee only, bill by the hour financial planning. I looked around and I found that there were people that would do investing. And even that was sort of new, where you're not just selling an investment, you're actually managing someone's assets. So I just thought, well, what the heck? I should just do it myself. However, I figured out how to do it. Fortunately, the CFP, the College for Financial Planning, had worked with this woman that was building a very successful fee only firm in Texas. And bless her heart, she wrote this textbook in a 3-ring binder on how to open your own financial planning practice. So I kind of put that together with like a small law practice, bill by the hour, give advice, and just sort of hacked through a business plan the best I could and came up with my business. And thankfully, my husband said, yeah, great idea. He also said, you should do some networking and go out and find people. And that was the one hard thing, because my favorite thing is to sit alone in a room and not talk to anybody and analyze things and figure out, yeah, I can tell you what to do, but I would rather just kind of send a little bird out to tell you and not actually have to interact with anybody. So it was a big deal when he said, you really need to go find people and tell them that you're a financial planner. So I headed out into the world, set up my office in Stowe, Massachusetts, a nice safe place because I had lived there at one point in my childhood, and just started going out and meeting people. And the business idea was still so different. I do financial planning. Well, what is that? You're going to sell me insurance? Well, no, we sit down and you tell me what your goals are, and I help you figure out how to get there, whether it's tracking your expenses or remembering to put money in a mutual fund or buying insurance or making sure you're getting the right credits on your social security statement, to really anything. So people were pretty intrigued, and that was lucky because it was hard going out there and telling a lot of people what I did.
Oh,
But
it's
because everybody needs to do this, it worked. It wasn't like I was just looking for someone who needed insurance. I was looking for someone who had a life goal, and that's
mm.
everybody. And someone with a life goal that doesn't really know how to get there, there's quite a few of those people.
I'm so curious because you have been doing this for so long and you've heard so many people share their life goals in the past decades. How have goals changed over time, or are they all still the same? The goal of 35 years ago is the same goals that people have today.
The goals are the same. People want to be with someone they love, and they want to have a day that just feels good. And they don't always know exactly what that day is going to feel like or how to get there, but they do know they just want to be happy. And it doesn't really matter who they are, whether they have a lot of money or a little money or what their politics are. They all just want to be around people that they love and have a safe, happy day, really. And not everybody can really figure out how to do that. So we help with the financial part of it.
Well, I imagine it also stretches as well. I mean, you probably come home some days, or I guess walk from the office to the living
Leave
room,
the room.
leave the room one day thinking to yourself, oh, I was more collegiate guidance counselor today, or I was more marriage counselor today, or physical therapist, I'm sure, on some rare occasions. What do people need beyond just the money side? Like, what do you find that people need in order to get this process going and make it more useful to them?
They need a safe place to think about it.
Mm.
So oftentimes you're thinking, oh crap, I got to go get the kids and I forgot about the dentist appointment. And did we pay the real estate taxes? And oh yeah, we need to save for retirement. And we really should paint the house. Do you think we should paint the house, or do you think we should deal with the driveway first? So there's just always this noise and stuff. And in there somewhere is, we should save for retirement, or somebody should put some money away for the kids' college, or maybe we need to put an addition on the house because now we're pregnant. And so there's these things that you never really get a chance to really sit down and figure them out. In our planning meetings, a lot of times, especially with the clients we've been working with for a long time, because most of the stuff is taken care of, it's really just having the space. Here we are now. And for the next half an hour, we're just going to think about, what do you want your grandchildren's lives to look like? What do you want your life to look like? You're newly married. What do you think is next? So when people can really sit down and quietly with their thoughts and with each other say, yeah, this is kind of what we have in mind. I mean, the young woman last week said to her husband, I haven't really said this to you yet. And that, I thought, oh, here we go. We hear this all the time. Never discuss this with you, is because there's all this noise all the time. So now He's on Zoom in his office. She's on Zoom in her office. I'm in Zoom in my office. And this is the first time they haven't had the kids and everybody talking to them. And she was able to say, when I come back from maternity leave, I think I want to come back at 80%. That was the first he'd heard it because it was the first time she could really think about it. And that's a lot of what we do. It's really giving the space and listening so that people can think for themselves what they really want the future to look like. The future could be next week.
Do people have goals, or do you have to help people create goals, or are they there? And it's just like, all we have to do is uncover, there's a little box there, there's a little bauble there, and this is back on the shelf. Let's pull this out and dust it off. Or do you have to help people really get into like, I don't even know that I have goals for life. I don't even know what a goal looks like for life. I mean, how extreme are the cases?
I mean, a lot of people don't like the word goal. Which is hard for people who are goal oriented. You're like, really? You don't want to have goals? Really? Like by next week, we're just like, really, how many loads of laundry are you going to do? How many times are you going to go to the gym? Let's get a goal. Like, let's figure that out. Not everybody's that way. And there's actual white papers and all kinds of books for financial planners that say, don't tell them they have to have a goal. But it is a pretty universal word that sort of feels like amount of time. And what they teach you in financial planner school is to try to help the client define it. And so what I find that is really helping somebody define what they picture a time as. So your kids are 8 years old. So what do you picture as they're getting to the end of high school? What do you really picture the next time as looking like? Oh, well, I would like for them to not move too far away. I would like for them to be able to go to the school I went to. I really don't know whether my kid wants to go to school. I would like for them to feel like they can take a gap year. It sort of develops from there. If you just ask, what do you envision this time looking like? You sort of give the time frame. What do you think the time after you're working where you're working now will look like? And then people can really start to talk about what they want. And then the financial planner part can come out and you can put numbers on it and work that down into us. Oh, you need to save so much a month and buy this mutual fund and all that.
What's the hardest thing when people come in and spend time with? I think I have my own answer to this question, but I want to hear you answer it first. What is the hardest thing that people have to overcome in order to move from busy and noise through, I hate the word goals, but I need them, to what you would call like on a healthy trajectory, life trajectory, not even just financial, but like whole life trajectory? What are some of the rivers they have to cross and mountains that people have to climb? Or is there one? That's my other question.
One of the darkest corners is technically tracking expenses. I would like to retire. I would like for you to help me retire. And that's great. We do retirement planning. You're in the right place. When would you like to retire? In 5 years. And what would you like to spend? I don't know. And what do you spend now? I don't know. Great. You can retire. It's like, oh. And what happens is that people don't want to know what they spend because there's just so much guilt and gut kind of built up in money. Was it money, sex, and religion are the things that you're not supposed to talk about? And I think people are more willing to talk about sex and religion. Like, you ever walk up to your friend and say, what do you make? No, you might put a sign out in front of your yard that indicates whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. And you might kind of nudge your friend and say, oh, wow, that's a really nice girl you brought to this party. So you're kind of really comfortable with two of those conversations, but you're not going to say to your friend, do you buy stock in your company? What are your earnings? For a lot of people in a financial planning meeting, it's really getting over that and feeling like, wow, I've got to talk about money with my partner, with the planner, with myself. I have to talk about it. That sometimes is really a hard thing. So it peels out over time often.
Do people generally come in with some level of financial literacy or financial worldview, or do you mostly have folks coming in who are just like, Pappy always said safe,
So I do.
and so I do, or my parents never taught me anything about money, so I look at my checking account, and if I have money, I spend it?
So fortunately, since the internet, it's easier and people have become more and more informed. I almost said savvy, but that's part of why I created Compass Planning the way I did, because I felt like there was just so much noise and trying to figure out how does this apply to me. About a month ago, I had an appointment and one person in the partnership is a software engineer. And he said, I've been trying to answer this question with AI and I can't get it worked out. I can't figure the prompts out. It's not coming out right. The answers I'm getting are not right. I thought, well, that's interesting because here we were being so worried about getting replaced by AI. And here's a guy that really knows how to use it, being in software. So what's happening is we're oftentimes kind of teasing out what's important and what's not, what applies and what doesn't, putting things into perspective. I had one client that her whole real life was just around, I got to get everything into Roth IRA. All my investments need to be growing tax free because I'm so worried about the world. I'm so worried about taxes and all that. And really creating the financial plan together and walking through kind of the perspective of her whole life was to really realize that that doesn't serve her. Having all of her money in a Roth IRA is not necessary. She can just have part of it. And we're able to kind of help people realize that this is the information that you know, but it doesn't completely apply to you in this way, but it does apply to you in this way. So we really help people sort information out and understand it and be more really less stressed about it because it can feel like a lot of stuff out there is telling you you're not doing it right. And most people are. They just need some help and some guidance.
As this person, I think about you as the pilot in this navigator role. You know, it's your job to always be the calm voice of conviction and certainty, and it's all gonna be okay. But I imagine there are points in your career where you have walked out of the room and been like, "Oh my goodness, that was challenging to me." And I'm curious where you have felt the most challenged as you've walked with so many people through their challenges.
The most challenging thing is when you're with a couple who are in a partnership who are fighting. It's like, oh my, now, okay. Because you're trying to hear both people and they're not on the same path. Fortunately, it doesn't happen very often. And sooner than not, you usually end up with only one of them as a client because they don't get onto the same path. That always is hard. I mean, that's difficult because the financial planning and the money piece kind of starts to pull out a lot of and concentrate a lot of that difficulty that's in the partnership. The other hard thing is when the people need to really make very difficult decisions to get to their goals. I mean, that happens less often than you think. People sort of have a sense of where they are, what they can afford. You know, they don't generally get too far out of their comfort zone as far as their money, but sometimes they do. And sometimes they made decisions in the past that are really hard to change. They bought a very expensive house that they now love and raise their children in. And so now it needs to be the home base for the family. But there can be no other goals than supporting this house, but they have other goals. They'd like to spend time with their grandchildren. They'd like to travel. But oftentimes, if you're just approaching it slowly, and it's like the Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy started out at the beginning, the good witch just showed up and said, all right, just I'll let you know that the shoes will get you home. So for right now, we can skip the song with all the munchkins and you can just click your heels and head back to the fun. But she didn't do that. She made her go through the whole movie so she could really learn for herself. And that's kind of how the financial planning goes. Any one of us could just at the beginning say, here you go. We know your plan. Here's where all your stuff is. But you wouldn't believe it and you wouldn't really live it right. And we might not be right, although we usually are. But you really got to learn your plan and create your own life so people can kind of learn those decisions as they go through the process.
And do you find that that's just an essential human thing? Like most people probably couldn't handle, here's your syllabus. You guys go take 2 hours a month, go on a date, go do it yourself kind of methodology. Do you really think it takes someone holding the space for people to engage this stuff?
Yes, I think that really is really important. Different people need it to different extents. Some people need really the only time they're going to think about this and the only time they can really work through this is when they're in a safe place where it's being kind of moderated and helped with by us, a planner. Some people, they come to meetings and they say, all right, here's what I planned out. This is what I'm going to do. I have these 4 questions and can you please make sure I'm doing this right? We're the guide. So everybody's a little different. And I suppose that's the way that everyone is in life too. You know, there's some people that are very comfortable with what they're doing and they're ready to just take the direction and want someone to double check them. And other people want more hand holding. That's why we built Compass the way we did. They wanted to be able to be flexible, say we can help you a lot or we can be there when you need it.
Now, you're kind of a rebel, and maybe you've never described yourself that way, but I suppose when the more I've watched you work, you've had a few things that you've had a strong opinion on. For those of you who are listening who don't know this, for the longest time, and still to this day, a lot of these insurance companies wanted you to buy insurance, and that planning became a means to sell people insurance. And you can suddenly start pushing your own products and getting people to buy your stuff by aligning with them as a partner, as a planner. And you came in hardcore and said, no, we have to really be careful about how we align ourselves. And you're kind of an early mover in this space, honestly. There just weren't that many people doing what you did. So tell me a little bit more about that, why you felt like it was so important to set this thing up more like a legal service rather than I charge 1 to 1.5% on everything you own.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it really came down to being focused on the person. I think it had a big effect starting in the insurance industry. And I remember it to this day, when you're new in insurance, they give you a book of business. These are all these policies that people have called in and they'd ask questions about their policy. And you're to go out to their home and sell them another policy. And Maya was like, wait a minute, she has a question on the policy she already owns. Why are we going to sell her more insurance? Because you're an insurance agent. This is what you do. Okay. So we drive out. I'm in Arizona. I drive out to the middle of the cotton field to this very modest house. And I arrived to help answer the question on the insurance. And the lady had a question about her Social Security. Okay. I'll help you figure out the Social Security stuff. No internet. So I had to go home and figure it out and come back and tell her what the answer was. And I just thought, well, people need help. They need information. They don't need a product. They're more than their investments. They're more than their house. They're more than their insurance. And so they just need to be respected and answer the question by creating the planning and billing by the hour. Or some clients, it kind of a few clients in, I think it was probably client number 5 or 6. I gave him the investment advice and I said, here's what you do, and billed him by the hour. And he said, yeah, like, can't you do this? I can do this. Yeah. And the industry at that point was bill him 1%. And I thought, all right, 1% of the assets. So I'm figuring this out in my head. And I said, okay, well, wait a minute. If I'm billing you by the assets, but I'm about to tell you to pay your mortgage off, you're taking money out of the assets. So why am I worth less because I told you to pay the mortgage off or give money to your kids or buy a house with a mortgage? So how does my advice value change with where your money is? How is it even related to how much money you have? If you have 10 million or 1 million, it still takes me the same amount of effort to help you do planning. So he said, well, figure it out. And I told him I'd bill him by the year. He's still a client. I love him. I love him and his wife. They're wonderful people. So he kind of really helped me with the business model. So for people that really need a lot of help and it really does them a lot of good for us to be able to manage their portfolios and be in contact with them more. And we just charge them flat annual fee. But everybody else we charge hourly for the time we spend with them. So we keep undoing a lot of insurance and a lot of the invested assets and just try to help people meet their goals.
I love this idea that the central heartbeat of the business that you've built is to be true. And this idea of like telling the truth, being honest, like you're not one of those people that likes to butter other people up. You're you're a straight talker, but you find that the truth leads to more truth. Like as you say true things, it leads you more towards where you're truly headed in life and what your true goals are. And then I like truing up as a verb, right? Then things begin to sort of true up and align around this. I'm curious if you've found, like, what has that brought you over the course of your career as far as internal peace and joy? Because you're still doing it. I mean, like, maybe you're just great at hammering out a lot of work that you don't enjoy. I doubt that. You've got too much of a smile to be someone who hates doing what they do. Like, what is the thing that has really fed your soul as you've had this career and built this business around this idea of being true as a center point concept? What's fed you?
Being able to live my clients' lives with them.
Mm.
I mean, when I was a new planner, my clients were middle-aged and excited about their highest earning years, or they were younger and they had new babies and new houses. And I had a few retired clients. Now everybody's sort of shifted. The new clients that come to our practice work with Sarah and with Josh. And so my clients, we've kind of all gotten older together. And I've lived through all their illnesses and their successes in business and their failures in business. And everything's up and down with their careers and with their families. And it's really wonderful because I know I'm kind of going along with them and kind of living their lives with them. It's hard when their lives go awry and people get sick. And we have a lot of clients pass away nowadays, which is super hard. But it's kind of it's the trade-off. It's like They love you, you love them, and you just kind of help everybody gets through life together.
This has been something I've been on for years and years. My not so secret mission has always been that this idea that if you could take the world of business interactions and you could elevate it to human interactions and use business as a platform to develop deeper human relationships, that we would all feel more fulfilled as people.
That would be very true.
I heard you just say, like, this is fulfilling to me to walk through life with people. And I imagine you've also gotten to see some people really realize the goals, for lack of a better word. I mean, realize the vision. And you've gotten a front row seat to that, I imagine, many times. Tell me about, like, is there something that you do? Do you have like a little ritual or something whenever it's like ding, ding, ding? 15 years ago, you said this is what you wanted to do, and today you did it.
Yeah, actually, that kind of happens. When I was flying, the scariest thing was teaching somebody to fly. And at some point, you have to decide, okay, if I get out of the airplane, they will be able to fly around the patch themselves and land and come to a stop, and them and the airplane will still be all in one piece. So you sign the back of the ticket with their license with your name, and it will still be there in the wreckage if they don't come back. So you write down your name, you write it in their logbook, and you get out of the airplane and you stand there on the ramp and you watch them take off, and you're like thinking about all the things you told them. You watch them come around. And that's pretty exciting. And you do that a lot in financial planning. You do that very often when somebody makes a big leap, they quit their job. So I'm ready to retire, or I'm ready to take on a huge mortgage, or tell my kid that I can afford to send him to that school. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I like the retirement. It's really fun when you were working with somebody for 20 years and they finally retire. And when we work that long together, it goes pretty smoothly because they've had such a strong plan for that many years. For newer clients that we've only been working with for 5 or 6 years, it's a scary time for them. And because I've been there before, and kind of the point I make is you can see from now until probably next week or maybe next month. I can see from now until age 90. Not exactly, but I can see the path. I know what to look out for. I know how to respond to the things that could happen, illness, inflation, crazy world things. And I've been through those things already. And so I kind of can anticipate how we'll get through them together. And so when someone that really does retire, it's a lot like them getting in that airplane all by themselves and off they go.
What a great way to live your life. And giving people skills and abilities to, it's like, you can do this. You can
You
have
can
this
do it.
adventure
Yeah.
and you can succeed. As we land this plane, I'm curious, what is a really good practical piece of advice that everyone who listens to this podcast should take to heart? Something so simple that everyone can do tomorrow that begins sort of tilling the soil for good financial habits and good planning and good goal visioneering.
I mean, it sounds so boring, but really having the way to know what you're spending your money on is so important.
Oh,
I know, I'm sorry. It's not a big so years ago I did CNBC, the big flashy, news program, and they just are so excited about you adding value. And actually, if you ever watch somebody on CNBC, if they look kind of like this, what's happening is the producer is in their earpiece saying add value, and then they come out with something crazy like, oh, you should short IBM, you should make sure that you're buying crypto, because it's just all this crazy energy. So I don't remember where I was going with that, but it sounded exciting. I mean, that's the thing that's so scary, is that it all comes down to knowing where your money goes.
yeah.
And I met with a couple a few months ago, and they said to me, and I love them, and bless their heart, they said, we really believe you that we should do this because we supported a family in Ukraine or some other place for 6 months because we were just looking at the credit card statements. We weren't really tracking the credit card statements. And we were both wondering, I wonder why we're spending so much, but she must have a lot of expenses. So what had happened was their credit card had been stolen. They were supporting these scammers for 6 months. Now, bless the credit card company, they gave the money back, which astounds me because I thought they would only give them 30 days back. But really, everything comes down to so there's two things. You're working so hard, you got to know where your money goes. And then you can control it because it will always keep going where you send it. So if you're constantly putting up credit card debt and paying it down and putting it down, then you will end up with that as your life. So it is important to know where your money is going and spending time talking to each other about what your goals are. So often I have one partner saying to me, I don't want him to come to the meeting because I need to get this done myself. And he doesn't really understand. It's like, no, really, bring him in. Let's talk about it. Even if it's just the whole hour, just talking about what do you want your future days to look like, whenever they are, next week, next month, 10 years from now. So talking to each other about stuff with some sort of concrete. Yeah, we want to retire. Can you make the kids lunch? Sit down, go on a date night, go out to dinner. I want to stop working when I'm 55, or I don't think I want to stop working till I'm 70, or I want the kids to go to an expensive school. Talk about these things concretely because that's a lot of what we do in our meetings.
Speak concretely.
As concretely as you can.
I think about AI tools and everyone's so excited these days, but part of me is like one of the best things that I like to do is you can just hit record on your phone. So one thing you just mentioned too is like I've been trying to do this with Emily. We got on Monarch Money because you're a big fan of Monarch. You
Oh,
introduced
great.
Monarch Money. And I
Yep.
said, I don't like the visual interface of Quicken for Mac. I don't like it. And I have to move on. This is not doing what I want to do. I don't trust the information that's here. So I need to find something. We completely rebuilt it and we ported it over. We put 2 years in there and we said, okay, we're starting with Monarch Money because it's visible to us both. And we can both work it. We can work the software. Okay, so we had this huge sort of moment and great, good for us. And then like we've gotten off, we never like completed it and set up our budget. But now she can see expenses and she can categorize them appropriately and I can too. And the next step is we need to sit down and say like, where does our money go? And I find that sometimes we have conversational drift, but the most beautiful thing that we have in the world is the ability to hit record and just capture a quick transcript and sit down and then make it fun. I mean, I love your idea of go to dinner. I mean, to me, a glass of bourbon whiskey and an hour on a Thursday night talking about money sounds actually kind of like a fun date.
That
Like
does sound good.
that sounds kind of nice. Like it doesn't have to be so.
No, it doesn't need to be stodgy. And it develops. So you can just start small. I'd like the kids to go to a school in New England. You don't even know what she thinks. You're just imagining that she goes along. I would like to work forever, or I'd like to retire early. And then it sort of just gels. The conversation gels over time.
And I think to some degree, you can also back into today and tomorrow. And you can say to yourself, like, all right, well, my wife and I had a great conversation about she wants to take another trip this year. And I just said, what would speak love to me is when we talk about a trip, we can point at that account and we see like there's $10,000. And we've been married 15 years, Jen, so don't laugh too hard. But like we got
Congratulations.
like a month ago, we got to the point where we had a huge fight in the morning. And she's like, why are you so mad? And I said, I think after having this fight for 15 years, what I'm trying to say is like, I'm really tired. It's not fun for me to dream about taking a trip when I'm like, where's the money going to come from? Because we have like ambiguity, like there's this account we're invested in these deals. And like what I've been doing is shoving money away into long-term alternative investments that are doing well, but we can't go on a trip on that money.
No.
And so I've kind of like forced this like savings program for ourselves, which I've loved. Like to me, that's honestly the best thing about alternative investments is you can't hit sell.
You're kind of stuck with it, right?
You're stuck with it. And I like creating stuckness with some things, but then it's created tension around when we want to go do something fun. It was amazing. Like after 15 years of fighting about it, it finally came out. I just want to see the account that says travel on it. And I want to see the amount in it. When you say, I want to dream about a trip, we spend 5 minutes. Like, what do flights cost? How many points do we have? What do Airbnbs cost? We quickly round up a budget and say like, yeah, we've got $15,000 set in our travel account and we could do Iceland for 7,000. Heck yeah, let's have another cocktail and dream about that trip. And I would like to live my life this way. I think that phrase right there has become helpful to me. Like it's good language. I would like to live my life this way. How would you like to live your life?
I like that.
Where does it go? And I still think we need help. We still need help.
You
but
don't have to have a budget. Everybody always puts a budget on them. The reason for tracking your expenses is to know where your money goes. So you can look at it and say, oh, look at this. We make 9,000 a month, 10,000 a month. We spend hopefully 9,000 a month, 10,000 a month, or 5 or 15 or whatever it is. Then you know. Now you might look at it and go, holy crap, we spend that much on groceries. You need to make decisions about what we buy for the groceries. Or you might look at it and go, wow, groceries have gone up in cost. Okay. So it lets you know where it is. It doesn't need to be I can't believe you're spending money on Hulu every month. You just need to know where it goes. And then
just
you
know where it
use
goes.
it for other information.
She told me this yesterday. She said, I'm just scared. I'm scared to be told no. And she's not a wild spender, and I'm not a wild spender either by any stretch. We've had multiple financial advisors tell us this. They're like, oh my gosh, you guys are actually
You
like,
guys don't spend any money.
you're doing okay. It's just ooh, what happens when I hit the edge of the budget? We set up a budget of X number of thousands a month for groceries. And what if I do X thousand and $100? Like, what happens to us at that point in time? And it's funny, like, you build all these little demons and you put them in all the little closets. And you're just like, I won't open that door because I can only imagine what horror lies behind that door. And I like what you just did there. It's so practical, Jen. It's like, well, great. If a budget is terrifying you, like, you need to know where your money goes. You don't have to like sit there and,
Yeah, don't do the budget part in Monarch.
yeah, don't do
You
a
just
budget.
need to
Just
know
watch.
where the money goes and then make decisions about actions.
Yeah.
So you look at it and you say, wow, we spend a lot of money on DoorDash. So let's just think ahead and make sure we have enough groceries in the house so that we don't have a need for DoorDash as much. Okay, great. And then that next week, everything goes to hell in a handbasket and you call DoorDash every single night.
That's right.
So then you think again, all right, well, this time when we go to the supermarket, we should buy more pasta and chicken. See how it changes? Your behavior changes over time. I hope you like pasta and chicken is what is for dinner tonight.
My joke is she always says, like, we spend so much on groceries. Do we just need to go on the rice and beans budget? And I'm like, well, sadly, I enjoy rice and beans.
I like rice and beans.
So yeah, we could do that. We can
It's
do that.
hard when you have kids. I mean, I think you have 2 kids.
Yeah.
Oh my God, to try to do this life with 2 kids and a business and a house and oh my heavens. So you really do. The tracking will help a lot. And then you just make decisions. You know, every paycheck I get, every time a client pays me, $100 goes in the travel or $1,000 or whatever it is. But you decide what it is because that's where the priority is.
And just shoop, shoop.
And then just
shoop,
it goes. Yeah.
and let it go. Jen, thank you. Thanks for taking the time to have this conversation with me. I hope everyone just heard how gentle Jen gets. Like, she's a truth teller, but she does it so gently. She's seen all these little bumps in the road before, and she has a lot of empathy for people and the ability to sort of help see what the next little step is to move them on the journey. And so I think the beauty of a Jenn Lane in your life and the beauty of Compass Planning is that they can hold the big picture in their minds. You don't have to get worn out by like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do in 55 years? And how am I going to do this? But they can really help you say, like, here's the one thing, here's the next thing, here's the next thing. And there's a lot of truth telling, but it's just always so sweet and so gracious. So huge, huge, huge shout out to Jen. CompassPlanning.com is where all of you should go. Yeah, it's a beautiful little masterpiece. There's a page on there called Heart, and you should read every word on that page. If you're still curious, you should go read about Jen and about the wonderful people on her team and all these beautiful, diverse backgrounds and just incredibly thoughtful and doing it in a way that is just generous and it's gracious and it's really well aligned. And so, I'm a huge, huge fan of Compass. So thanks, Jen. Thanks for creating something really beautiful with your business.
Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed the time here.
Oh, thank you so much. Everyone, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, you can subscribe on Spotify. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts. You can go to the atdepthpodcast.com and subscribe there or catch the episodes and videos there. If you've got any questions for me, ben@pivotal.com. Pivotol. Had to spell it weird back in the day. If this stirred something up in your own mind or thought process, feel free to reach out to me. And also you can reach out to Jen straight from her website. And she's got a wonderful team of people there that are just as fantastic as she is. All right. Thank you, Jen. We hit the depth and I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us for this intentional conversation at depth. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a moment to subscribe and follow along. You can do this at the atdepthpodcast.com. Again, that's the atdepthpodcast.com. You'll find new episodes, show notes, and more conversations with entrepreneurs who are building what really matters. Until next time, keep going deeper and keep building at depth.